Africa is a Pan-African organization that supports women in STEM fields across Africa. The strategic focus also expands into the areas that promote African leadership in the STEM field, creating a pipeline for girls to choose STEM careers, and also encouraging women into the STEM entrepreneurial space. So we'll just open this with a brief video from our founder, Ethel Coffey, so that she gives us sort of a start before we get into the main conversation. Okay.
Hello and welcome to Women in Tech Week 2020. Women in Tech Week is a festival of events that celebrate women in technology across the African continent. It's hosted by Women in Tech Africa. My name is Ethel Coffey. I am the founder of Women in Tech Africa. Now, we all understand that 2020 has been, at best, an unusual year. And normally we would have physical events across our chapters, but this year we will have 3 days of virtual events hosted by our European, East African, and Mauritius chapters. The themes we will be interrogating this year are around how we thrive and grow our career and our businesses in this time of the new normal. We put together an array of speakers that we know that you will love. Women in Tech Africa is a network of over 5,000 women across 30 African countries who are in the technology sector. We are committed to helping these women build careers and businesses in the space. We hope you join us as we celebrate Women in Tech Week, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a word from Ethel. She's based in Ghana, and we hope you will enjoy the Tech Week. Yesterday, we had a session in Mauritius where the conversation already started. Today is the second day, and this session is being hosted by the Kenya chapter, of which I am the chapter lead. My name is Sylvia Mukasa. I had not introduced myself at the beginning. So we've had the Tech Week being celebrated from 2016. And the very first time we did this, we were able to reach over 10,000 women from all over the world through virtual and physical events in at least 11 countries at the time. As some of you may have noticed from the flyer we sent out, we are actually celebrating 5 years of existence as Women in Tech Africa. I launched the Kenya chapter in September 2015 here in Nairobi, Kenya. And to date, the Kenya chapter has at least 250 plus members. And we engage either via WhatsApp, other social media, hold other events, and also engaging with the wider WITA community through events like the Bites and Banter series that has been being hosted by the Europe chapter. Okay, so this year, the theme for the Tech Week is growth in the era of the new normal. And the reason why we selected this is for obvious reasons, what's happening with the COVID-19 situation. And we hope through the engagements and conversations we are going to have, you'll be able to learn a lot, right? We've delayed a little in starting the session, so I will just go almost straight into the conversation. So just repeating, the topic for the session today is the future of work and how to survive in it. I will be moderating the session, and our speaker for today is Pooja Gianchandani. And I'll just do a brief intro of who Pooja is. So she is a global leader who's invested the last 18 years of her career in enhancing private sector engagement and investments for improving quality of vocational education, apprenticeships, and skills programs. In the wake of the 2020 pandemic, the disruptions and new work, she has accelerated her efforts in creating vocational training and skills development programs and dialogues to strengthen partnerships between public, private institutions, and practitioners. Currently, she works as an advisor to GIZ in Germany. As part of the sector project TVET, she's involved in the projects that promote TVET of the future in the context of bilateral or multilateral international cooperation. Pooja is also a Humboldtian and German Chancellor's Fellow. She has completed her master's in social work with a specialization in corporate responsibility from the World Bank Institute. Welcome, Pooja. Right? So you'll be hearing from Pooja in a short while. But as we prepare to hear from her, one thing I would suggest is type in your questions in the chat box. We will be addressing any questions that arise at the end of the session. So there's only one speaker for today, so it's going to be pretty straightforward who the questions are directed at. But we are happy to have conversations, and we'd also like to have your conversation. So the last almost half of the session will be directed to Q&A. So please make sure you ask as many questions as you can. Let this be two-way communication and not just us speaking at you, okay? So I'll just, from where I sit, when I hear about the future of work, a few questions come to mind. And for me, I start thinking about are robots taking away human jobs? Where will the jobs of the future come from? Are our skills becoming increasingly outdated? Is the gig economy creating precarious jobs? Today's skills will not match the jobs of tomorrow, and newly acquired skills may quickly become obsolete. What fundamental workers' rights and basic working rights should we be addressing? The rapidly transforming world of work has made headlines of all these anxieties I'm talking about. Do we need a human-centered agenda as proposed by the ILO to deal with the rapid and unprecedented transformation into the world of work? And what would that look like? Should we be having dystopian conversations around these anxieties as we discuss this topic? So I'm hoping as we go on with the conversation, we'll be able to understand some of these questions and begin to be clearer in terms of what should we be looking at? What should we be preparing for? Either as young people, as employers, as government officials, civil society, or whatever space you're coming from. So I will go straight to my first question. Pooja, if you could allow me to. And that question is, what has changed and what will continue to change as far as the future of work is concerned?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much, Sylvia, for inviting me to this very interesting session. I had heard about Women in Tech Africa and all the wonderful work that you are doing, but I'm so glad that our paths crossed during our AI lab experience, which was a fellowship program, a fellowship lab sponsored by the ITC, ILO, GIZ, and the Global Leadership Academy. So I'm glad our paths have crossed, and today we are speaking about this important topic. Now, thank you for this introduction. Although by day I work as an advisor to GIZ, by night I think I'm a skills warrior. So I may be I have a full-time job to support public and private institutions, but by heart, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a solopreneur before, and that's from where I will speak and share my experiences today. So just to be sure, the experiences that I'm sharing are based on my own experiences, my opinions, and my understanding of what is happening in and around us. And the more we can make it interactive, your questions, will make it more exciting for us. So let's go straight into the question at hand. Next slide, please. Raise your hands. Can we go back? Can we go back? Yes. So I would like everybody to write in the chat box, yes or no, if 2019 felt like this for you. When we started 2019, perhaps we were having grand plans and we had all these fantastic ideas of how we will make 2020 the decade of action, and 2020 will become something which is so unique. And then came COVID-19. So let's see how many of us felt like we were just being blown away. Okay, so we have some responses. Okay, so somebody didn't feel like this as well. That is interesting. I would love to know more. So the point is that none of us were prepared for what was coming in the early 2020. Things were already challenging. The future of work was there. Industries and businesses were changing, evolving, and adapting to the many disruptions. But COVID-19 leapfrogged us into this new world of work. None of us were prepared to work from home. A lot of us did not know that the sunrise industries like aviation, like hospitality, like tourism, transport, these sunrise industries will face a slump. So the point here that I'm trying to I think we need to acknowledge as entrepreneurs, as professionals, is that the elephant in the room is that future of work is here, and I think it is working to change the industry on steroids. Next slide. Okay, I think we have skipped to this. So let me ask you a question. For me, future of work is the creation of new jobs that are seeded in disruptions, innovations, critical thinking, problem solving, effective communication, etc. The new economy, as we all are talking about now, and what Sylvia also mentioned in her introduction, is not evolving somewhere outside. It is evolving inside the old economy. Changes are happening in the way we are conducting business. And these changes earlier used to be gradual, but now the entire product cycle and service cycle from innovation to commercialization has become a hyper cycle. So for example, the classic example is the iPhone. There was a time when we used to line up outside the iPhone stores to get our iPhone, but now iPhone launches 3 editions and 3 versions at the same time. So these are all disruptions that have changed the way the world functions. So my question to all of you is, if you go to menti.com and use the code that you see on the slide, I would like you to answer and rank which disruptions do you think would have most affected the future of work or the world of work by 2025. We'll give you a quick minute to go to menti.com and to use this code 9274147 to give your answers. And maybe towards the end of this session, we can see what we have collectively crowdsourced. What do we think as a group? Next, please. Next slide.
I'm not sure if she's had you. Edna, could you please move to the next slide?
Okay, she made me the host now. So should I put the slides on?
Yeah, sure. I think you can do that.
Okay. Let me see if I can get quickly through this. Okay, So we'll share the link in the we'll share the link, and this I think will continue getting populated. The next question then that you will get is, which business sectors will be winners post-COVID in your country? I think this year these are two questions that will help us in a way analyze and assess what exactly is happening in our respective countries, and how we as entrepreneurs, especially tech entrepreneurs, we can ride this wave of change and innovation.
Right. So thank you very much for that overview, Pooja. The next question I would like to pose to you is, what does the future of work look like, and how does it affect us or affect us?
Yeah, so maybe if Edna can get back to the slides.
Okay, you've lost, okay.
Yeah, maybe while she puts it up, then I can just talk about it very quickly. It's the phenomena of disruptions. We are talking about so many global disruptions that are happening, whether it is automation, digitalization, because of climate, because of migration, the greening agenda. Some of these are new buzzwords, but disruption as itself is not a new concept. It has been happening. When the first set of glasses was invented, that was a disruption and innovation at that time. And now, maybe 50 years or 100 years into that, we have so many different variants of smart glasses and smartphones and smart watches, the wearables, hearables, and all the other tech innovations that that were something from movies, which are now part of our life. So the point is that innovation and disruption has been happening, but what has changed? What has changed is that now COVID has altered how we consume products and services. It has changed what we consume. It has changed where we consume. It has changed why we consume. I don't know if you can see my slides still, but I had given some examples here that industries that were very traditional, that were organized in a certain way, have now been visibly disrupted by COVID-19. Case in point, the entertainment industry. We would all love to go to cinema halls, but we have slowly started to switch and move to OTT platforms. Netflix was already a phenomena, Amazon Prime was a phenomena, and so many other different entertainment companies now have started and launched their own OTT platforms because more and more people have got onto them. In the retail, we have moved from store-based, brick and mortar-based retail to e-commerce and online retail. The whole mobility sector, for example, has changed. Industries like the automobile industry are transitioning from traditional vehicles to green vehicles, to green innovations. Other means of transport, which were otherwise not very popular, have now started to become very, very popular because of the several changes that are happening in the way the consumers are involved. Healthcare, one of the big sectors that was, I think, traditionally, and in my personal opinion, had got a little bit neglected over the years, is now back in the forefront. Healthcare and pharma, they are really making the change and being the difference. Manufacturing, again, the biggest gainer, frankly, out of this COVID phenomena, because a lot of the product demand increased, but manufacturing will also have to adapt itself to more green and clean manufacturing processes, just like any other industries. And in all of these, when I'm taking all these names of these industries and sectors, the biggest, I think, the innovation and invention will happen at the level of small and medium enterprises and the craft sector, which will be forced to jump into and jump on to the innovation and the e-commerce bandwagon. So what was next? I think I got a message.
Yes, yeah. So you might need to share your slides from your end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just try doing that. So, but just to come to the point, I think. Okay, let me try. It got dropped out. Can you all see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. So I think the bottom line is, Sylvia, that before 2020 in 2019, all of these changes were happening, and there were lots of discussions about it, but none of these changes were affecting you and me personally. Now these
Yeah.
changes have entered into our living room. You and I are today sitting at our dining table, which is now turned into our office, and we are making these presentations. So things have got really real because
Yeah.
the lines between the personal and the professional life have started to blur. And this is where I think we as women entrepreneurs, we as uh, future leaders, we have to really plan ahead and understand that disruptions were happening. Now they have got accelerated and they have now transitioned into our living room.
Yeah.
And so this is the, uh, in my opinion, this is where future of work is no more in the future. It is happening now.
Precisely, precisely. So we are sort of in agreement that COVID really hastened how things are happening now. We knew, I mean, there were already conversations about the future of work, but certainly COVID has accelerated the pace at which we are doing this. So thank you for what you've just shared thus far. So now what I'd like to ask is it then possible to, and how can we redesign careers, for example, based on your experience with TVET and also outside of TVET, um, how can we start redesigning our careers, either as career people, as students? There are students who are in school, and some of them are just about to begin school. What kind, how can they go around that?
So that's a very good question, Sylvia. It is a very complicated conversation because there is no one solution that fits all. But how I look at these changes and how I feel we can start to at least unpack the impacts of these transitions into on our lives is maybe look at the trends that are shaping why and how companies will recruit in the future. Because one of the main purposes of education and training is to create, of course, good citizens, but also to help us find the right jobs and the right careers for ourselves. And in addition to that, with these current changes, it is also to help us become self confident and to enhance our entrepreneurial abilities. So, if you look at the digital transitions that are shaping the recruitment within the companies, I did a quick research and I found 5 trends that were key in that. And the most interesting ones were what also were accelerated and also became something that COVID proved that yes, this is where the trends are going. So first is of course digital transformation, as we talked about. Uh, the the increase in online and flexible and remote working is going to really change the way uh, companies will hire in the future. This digital transformation will also increase, therefore, the skill gaps because none of us were ready for this. None of us learned about these transformations or transitions in our education. So, this is widening the skills gap at one end and also widening the skill shortage that the companies will be facing. And therefore, eventually, they will move to identifying and hiring talent from anywhere and at any time. So when we always talk about globalization, one of the key threads to it is talent acquisition. But now companies, if everybody is working from home, they will find talent hotspots. This will also improve the diversity and the quality of the workforce. Then the workforce will have to be future focused. It is not something that the companies are attuned to at the moment, or our business clients. They don't work like that. They have people come, they have internal clusters of people in marketing, in business, in maybe finance, who are there and who are aligned in a certain system. But now they will have critical roles and core roles that will be in form of a skills pool that the companies may have at one location or they may have anywhere in the world. The next trend that I think is going to change how companies will engage talent and human resources is that they will hire in skills clusters. They are no more going to hire, uh, you know, one big chunk of multi-skilled professionals at one place. They might have maybe one back office for marketing in somewhere, and they might have a back office for finance in another place. They will have an IT and innovation division based out of somewhere else. So these clusters will create a new demand for new skills, and also it will make a lot of skills that are already existing redundant. And that brings me to the last point, which is something which I really feel is very important, is that the company-wide digital transformation would also mean that the companies will have to retrain their existing staff. It also means that the education institutions, and especially the vocational training institutions, have to reskill and upskill the young people in a way that they are job relevant, not today, not tomorrow, but in the moment. And the things that are changing in the industry are changing at a lightning speed, and so will the education and the TVET systems will have to evolve around it. And lastly, I think the underlining part to this is that everybody will have to have one key mantra, which is learning to learn. And this is something that I think will become extremely important, especially for entrepreneurs, because we will have to multi-scale, we will have to multitask, we will have to continuously keep on learning and unlearning what we know. And that's how I think uh, the future of work, we will be future of work ready.
Yeah, awesome. I really love the learning to learn. This is the time
Yes.
everybody has to learn, from whatever space you are in. You have to learn. If you do not learn, then you're in big trouble. So yeah, that's very key. Okay. So the next thing maybe we can touch on, Pooja, is, what can we then do in order to not only survive, but also thrive in our normal. So we talked about the learning to learn, and the upskilling and the reskilling. But what more can you add to that, especially as we look at thriving in the new normal?
I think the key word that you've used, which is very different from all the other conversations that we've had on future of work at the
Mm,
moment, is how to thrive in it. It is not
mm,
about surviving anymore. It is
mhm.
about thriving. And
Yeah.
while uh, I fully understand that the part of surviving itself has become much more difficult and much more competitive and challenging,
Mm,
but I feel if we look at it in the right way and in the right spirit, there are many more opportunities for us to thrive, and to grow and expand our horizons. And I think in that, um, I have my moments too when things don't work my way, and then you raise your hand and say, "Oh, what just happened?" And it wasn't the day I planned. But I think there are some sets of skills that we all need to work on, and we need to kind of polish ourselves on, because this is something that will be our black book for thriving, not only survival but for thriving.
mm,
And I think
mm,
in that, the first challenge I have is, what is the new normal? We are talking about the new normal, but the new normal has not yet arrived. For it might be that tomorrow we have a COVID vaccination and everything goes back to normal. So, but what is this new normal, and how does this new normal affect me, and what do I feel about it? I think this is a self-reflection exercise that all of us must indulge ourselves in. Then I think the next big question is, what is my value proposition that makes me different and makes me stand out from what the other person is offering? And in that, there is an element of competitiveness, but I think this is the moment when we can all collaborate and we can have products and
mm,
services that have a complementarity in nature. And then I think the last part, which is something that I live by every single day, is identify your own skill gaps, because nobody knows better than you what is it that you can do and what is it that you need to do better. So identify your skill gaps, and then identify how can you reskill, how can you upskill. Now this is a very fine line between
Mm,
reskilling and upskilling. You may be an excellent digital marketeer, but you might also want to have an additional skill in maybe designing some content or writing blogs, or I don't know, something. And that
mm,
could be your reskilling journey. But you might be a great plumber, or you might be a great electrician, and you want something else to go to your clients and say, for example, oh, have you thought about this new green technology? This is being, made available. So that is your upskilling journey. So I think a combination of this is something that we could use to thrive in the new normal. And I would be very happy to hear from our peers and colleagues who are on this session with us on what are they doing, what are their strategies to thrive in the new normal.
precisely. Maybe everybody can share, what are you doing? What have been your reflections? It would be nice to hear how everybody is approaching this space. And just, to again emphasize on, or, to make people understand what you've just been saying better. So you've used the words skill. So there's reskilling, there's upskilling. Maybe just explain a little bit what is reskilling and what is upskilling.
Right. So I'll take my favorite example. Maybe I'm a skilled electrician. I go to a technical college or a community college, and I do a diploma or a program, and I acquire a certificate that says that I have certain competencies and I am skilled to be able to fix maybe a light bulb, or to fix a house wiring system or a connection. That makes me skilled. But now COVID has arrived, and the technology has changed. I cannot maybe use the same techniques to fix a problem or find a solution to a problem. I need maybe some digital tools, or maybe some VR tools, or I don't know what all is possible. Or maybe the millennials have now, or the people have now become more aware and informed, and they want to use green technologies instead of the old technologies. So I need to reskill myself. I need to understand, oh, this is how the technology has moved, and now how do I make myself relevant for it? And then reskilling could also be vertical, it could also be horizontal. I might want to say, oh, I'm already an electrician, how about I become a solar engineer and a solar mechanic, and I can go to my clients and I can offer them to do some solar roofing or some solar paneling for their house. I mean, so that's when you reskill yourself horizontally, and then you upskill yourself. So you have been working as part of a team with other electricians, and now you say, oh wow, I think I'm really good at fixing this problem, and I want to be an entrepreneur myself. So you upskill yourself to become independent, to become more confident. You acquire problem solving skills. You learn how to be an entrepreneur and how to run your own business. Like I think many of our participants, I was listening to the other sessions as well, they were they have been sharing. So that's when you upskill yourself, and from being a worker you become a supervisor or your own boss, becoming your own boss. And that's, I think, the journey that everybody eventually wants to traverse, of course, with different colors and with different aspirations.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, so a summary of these three keywords, is REAB. Anyone getting out of here, think about REAB. Reflect, identify, bridge, right? That's the new one from Pooja. Okay, so Pooja,
It's your
we are.
rib. I think, sorry, you made it a very good acronym. It's your rib. It will make you
Yes,
stand and thrive in the new normal.
yes, yeah, REAB. Create another REAB and survive and thrive. Okay, so we are speaking to mainly women, who are either in tech or want to get into tech or are entrepreneurs, professionals. So to address them directly, yeah, how can they prepare for and launch their careers post COVID-19?
That's the most difficult question, and I will try and share something from my own experiences. I think this is something that all of us have faced. We've heard a lot of discussion within the multilateral and also the bilateral system about why resilience is the top skill that we all need. And it is not something that it happens overnight. It's not an online training program that I take for 40 hours and I'm resilient. It's a muscle that we need to build. It's a muscle that we need to work on. And I think in that, one of the things that really helps me is this VUCA principle, which is we are living in a environment and in an ecosystem which is volatile, which is uncertain, which is complex, which is ambiguous. It was so even before, but now it is all the more. So how can we transition to look at this VUCA principle in a very different way, from from it being something that gives us stress and does not let me sleep at night to something which gives me more hope and a vision for the future. So can we look at the vision? Can we be can we empathize and can we understand? Can there be a little bit more clarity? Can we bring in a little bit more clarity in our thoughts and how we are reacting and responding? And then can we be a bit more agile and not be just so rigid that I planned to do things this way. Now they are not going, and I'm not going to do it anyway. So I think it's a balance, it's a fine balance that we need to be finding, whether we are an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, or we are working in a very formal organization, or you're working or setting up your own small business, or even if you're a TikTok star, tomorrow your the followers and might not like what you are representing, so you might have to start again. And I think for women, it's one thing that I've come to learn, which is really, really important. Women have to support women. There aren't enough women in positions of influence in the boardrooms, in the decision making. And unless women support women, I think the change will be much slower than we desire. So I think this is something that I think we women entrepreneurs can look at, can think about. And then I think the last line, and then maybe we can get more into the conversation part of this, is that this is my favorite slide, and I've been tracking this since 2 years, and I hope all of you know what this is. This is the Tesla Roadster, which is now flying somewhere in space. It is in just 2 years, 9 months, and I think maybe 6 days. It is headed towards Mars. In less than 6 weeks, this Tesla Roadster is going to have first contact with Mars. Of course, it sounds something like from the realm of science fiction, but this is the pace at which change is happening. And so today's skill, earlier we used to say today's skill may not be relevant tomorrow, but now I'm changing it to saying today's skill will not be relevant tomorrow. So you have to understand the pace of change, and eventually maybe some generations ahead of us, we will be a very different society than we are today. So the foundational work has to be done by maybe our generation. And so that's, I think, my final point. And something that I always say, that vocation is the new superpower, and COVID-19 has proved that about vocational education and also skills. Yeah. So now I'll stop sharing and maybe we can continue our conversation.
Precisely. So audience, Pooja has covered the key points of this conversation, and now the floor is open to you to contribute, right? I haven't seen any questions yet in the chat session, but I'd encourage you to ask questions, either just, unmute yourself and ask a question, or alternatively, type your question in the chat box, so that we are answering questions that may be of concern to you at this point going on. It's 7 minutes to when we should have ended, but because we started late, we'll give it an extra 10 minutes that we lost in the beginning. So we still have some time for you to
I
ask
think Janet
questions.
has a question.
Sorry, you've seen a question?
Yes, Janet has raised her hand. I think she has a
Okay.
question.
Okay. Janet, that's fine. Unmute yourself and ask. Hi. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Unmute yourself, please.
Hello.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. I was wondering if you have any contacts in Tanzania specifically.
Oh, okay. We actually had someone who was running a chapter in Tanzania, but she's no longer doing that. Is there a specific thing you would like to do?
Well, okay. So I'm the chair of Tanzania Development Trust. So
Okay.
and I'm an ex-teacher. So one of the things that we do is particularly support girls' education. I mean, generally this is in very rural areas where there's huge issues in terms of access to technology. But my background is in educational technology. It's something I'm really passionate about. I really want to connect with anyone who's doing interesting things in Tanzania that can potentially help. So some of the things that we've done are set up digital champions in rural villages. Generally, they're first-time smartphone users. We're also supporting, secondary school girls via hostels and some technology teaching, and also activists fighting female genital mutilation. But really all the things that we're doing, and that's also includes vocational education and digital skills, but it's really at a very low, people are at a low starting point and have got low access to technology, but it's something that we really want to build up.
Okay. Okay. So I know GIZ, for example, have some initiatives on digital centers, but they're doing that in Kenya. I don't think they have something in Tanzania. But I know a lady who I met through the ITC ILO lab. So how I got to know Pooja was we were part of the ITC ILO lab that was discussing leadership using artificial intelligence.
Wow.
And there were some people from Tanzania there. So maybe we could reach out to them. I know there's a lady who's doing something on gender-based violence, but she's worked in other areas as well. Maybe I could put you in touch with her.
Please do. Yeah. I'm putting my LinkedIn in the
okay. Yeah.
In the chat, and I've also put my email address. So we're doing a lot of work on gender-based violence,
right?
Particularly with the FGM activists in Mara. And another thing that I've been doing is I set up a mapping project called Crowd to Map, which is mapping into OpenStreetMap. So we have around 14,000 online volunteers who are doing this, but also training people on the ground, and we're setting up youth mapper chapters. So we've also done, I don't know if you know Laura Mugeha, she's based in Nairobi, a GIS specialist. So, I mean, she's one of the many people that we work with on that. I did a session for the Nairobi Summit last year about mapping, and we've done sessions at the UN, particularly around mapping to help protect girls from FGM. So this is something we're interested in doing more of in Kenya as well, because particularly in rural areas, the activists get a phone call in the middle of the night, the village isn't on any map, and that sort of thing. But it's also about upskilling rural women as well.
Yeah, yeah. definitely there are initiatives that are touching on that. And you mentioned something about crowdsourcing
Crowd
and
to
mapping.
Map. I'll put the
Crowd to map.
website in.
Okay, so there's someone also who works on crowdsourcing, mainly working with rape victims in India. She could be
Okay.
a useful contact as well. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and then we can
Mhm.
have a conversation around that.
That would be
Okay.
great. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Anyone else with a question that would be helpful around, the topic we've just been discussing? Feel free
I think
to.
if you look at the chat,
Yeah.
Grace has asked a question. Thank you, Grace.
Oh, I've missed that one. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Grace Nyakanini. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So good talk by Pooja. Thank you for the presentation. My question is on the issue for reskilling. What are some of the strategies that governments could adopt to reskill career women, especially the over 35s, especially in traditional jobs?
Okay. So, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Grace, thank you so much for the feedback and the question. I think the number one strategy that could be adopted, and of course it depends on the context and the country and the sector and where you are trying to look at it with career women, is to providing them the right career guidance. I think the weakest link in our education and training system is career guidance. Most of us enter into our professions because someone told us this is what we should be doing. Of course, it has changed, and now because of the awareness and because of the information that is available on the internet and otherwise, people are making much more uh, very different choices. So I think the number one thing especially for adult learners and women is the career guidance. The second is that most of the training, especially in the traditional jobs, since you said that, is about acquiring the know-how to do something, but it has to be much more application based. The women have to be trained in entrepreneurial skills. They have to be especially trained in financial literacy, for example, how to uh, manage and maintain your books. Then it has to have an element of communication and an element of reaching out, outside your comfort zone. And I think the last part is, which I also said earlier, is training to adapt. Somewhere, and I can speak from my experience of working in South Asia, that the mentality is that 35 is the end of your career. It's not. It's not the end of your career. It's a start of a career which is based on experience that you have gained over the years. So I think that is something that the strategy. I mean, when we talk of reform of the skilling and we talk of reskilling, I think these are the three components that really could enhance and add value to what the governments are already doing.
Great. I think there was also there's someone who responded to Janet here in Kenya, Diana. She says she could connect with you as well, Diana. Okay, so we have about 9 minutes. Then we can call it a wrap. So any further questions? I think, Janet, your hand is still raised. I'm not sure if you want to ask another question.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let me just see. There's a message here. I'm not sure if it's a question. Okay, not a question. So
I
maybe
just wanted to show you some of the results of the question that we asked on the Menti. I don't know if all of you got a chance to go to the menti.com, and maybe I'll just show you very interesting, very interesting insight here. We asked a question that which disruption you think would have affected the future of work. And of course, people think digitalization and automation. But the number three, the economic recession, I wasn't expecting that to be on number three, but that is already such a good sign, because we know something that is
Mm.
going to come and we can prepare for it. And maybe we could give it another couple of seconds if the others would also like to jump in and share their
Yeah,
views.
yeah, precisely. So feel free to go back to Menti if you had not contributed, and give a response to that. Um, but because I haven't seen another question yet,
Mhm.
Pooja, maybe we can speak about what opportunities these changes that we've been talking about open for freelancers and entrepreneurs.
Hmm. Um, I think if you go back to that slide where I talked about the five disruptions for freelancers and entrepreneurs, and I've been a solopreneur myself, the opportunity is now that uh, the world has opened up. I mean, of course, it's easier said than done, but you have much more opportunity to access, to network, to get attention, to reach out to clients and offer your services through various platforms and to work as part of the gig economy. The opportunities have increased in comparison to before, but then the training and the preparation required to be able to make most of those opportunities, that work also has to be put in by the freelancers and the entrepreneurs. And I think the second opportunity I see is this whole digital revolution, and something good has also come out of this year. There are a lot of the technologies and tools for which were not available freely earlier have now been made available and have become cloud based, have become web based, and so those opportunities are something that entrepreneurs may like to leverage, um, and kind of make most of.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, any changes on the Menti.com?
Yeah, it's happening. There's another question. If you see, yeah, it's moving. I
Mm-hmm.
think the other question that we also have is, which business sectors will be winners post COVID in your country? And I would love to know your answers on this. Both these questions are open, and maybe we can come back to them in towards the end of our
Okay,
discussion.
so yeah, so we have 5 minutes to end the conversation, so we have to be pretty quick on this. There was the question on whether recordings will be shared. Yes, they will be. And in fact, this session was actually live on Facebook as well. So you can always recap by listening to the recordings again, and also share with others who would benefit from the conversation we've had today. So yeah, so you can go to mentee.com and have a conversation around that. So one thing I'd like to say is that another change that has been on is how we parent during this pandemic period, how care is provided by family members. And suddenly people have to think of alternative childcare, or become care providers themselves, because either there is not enough money to send children to daycare, or even for them to, for example, those who would take their kids to playgroup can no longer do those kind of things. And so couples have to sort of share responsibilities within the family, and also juggle around that with their spouses, or wider family, to just make arrangements and carry on with their normal work during this period. And it also sort of makes us begin to think, how would employers, for example, support their workers who are working from home? And even for those parents who are working from home, how do you utilize your time in a manner that you still grow and equip yourself with the relevant skills? So here we are talking about work-life balance, juggling between having to do your work at home and then having to do your the normal work you'd be doing if you're going to the office, for example. So all those things, you really have to think through, during this period, so that you're still not left behind. Because as much as we are impacted with the COVID situation, life is still moving, and only those who are moving with it will survive it. So it's up to us at individual level to ensure that we are adapting and not use the pandemic as an excuse to not keep up the pace, unfortunately. Anything else you would like to say, Pooja, as we wind up?
I think I would like to ask our participants, and if they can maybe type their answers in the chat box. Would you prefer to work from home? Yes, or would you want to go back to would you want to go back to a office environment? Maybe yes or no.
Yeah, just type that in the chat box. In the chat box, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, both. Let's see what the others say. Okay.
No office, please. Yes, I'm in that group. No office, please. No traffic jam. Nairobi situation, really terrible. So I guess on that front, we are celebrating if we don't have to go to the office.
I think the best thing, and nobody's saying this, and I'm famous for saying things the others don't say. I think the number one reason why people want to work from home is nobody wants to get dressed up.
I know.
I had to literally dress up today, and it was quite an experience.
Yeah. Okay.
So the public has spoken. I think the point that you raised is that each side has its advantages and disadvantages, and a balance is important. I personally feel that working from home can allow us to be a bit more disciplined and a bit more, you want to finish your work as soon as you can, where possible and when possible. And it also allows us to spend time with family, which otherwise, frankly, has not been possible. And I don't know about what your experiences are, but I've really benefited from this time that I've saved from getting ready and thinking about what to wear tomorrow, to packing your lunch, and to going and transporting yourself to the office, and then settling down and starting to work. So this time that you have saved, I mean, you can invest in learning to learn. You can invest in building your resilience. You can invest in reskilling, upskilling, and you can also invest in just relaxing and enjoying the fact that all of us are healthy, safe, and sound, and praying that the situation should end and this forced sitting at home should end. But having said that, I must also say that hats off to all of them who have still been going to work, because they have to be working and providing us essential services. So hats off and a thank you to everybody who has been offering us these essential services.
Yeah, precisely. Okay. So I believe you've learned something from this session, and it's been of benefit to you. It has been of a lot of benefit to myself, and I hope you will put into practice some of what has been shared with Pooja. Pooja, thank you very much for giving your time and being a panelist for this session. I loved it. I'm sure the audience loved it. And this is not the end of the conversation. This information will be available on our platforms for others who could not make it at this particular point in time to also get to listen to the conversation. Apologies about the audio issues for those who could not hear. Some of us could hear, so we didn't realize that was a problem. Apologies for that. But I'd also like to mention there's a session going on tomorrow by the Europe chapter. We have physical chapters in the Republic of Ireland and in Germany. They'll be holding a session tomorrow. Feel free to check out our pages. There are links there. Sorry, I didn't have the link with me right now. But yeah, there's a session going on tomorrow that you could also attend. Without much further ado, I will bring the session to an end, and I hope we keep engaging. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks.